What is good, everyone? Welcome back to episode 3 of the Royal Ramble podcast. The podcast where I will royally ramble. I'm back after some time off. 3 months off? 4 months off? 3 months off? You know when you just get in the limbo of not doing something and you know you want to do it and you need to do it and you just don't. That's me. That was me with the podcast. I've got names written down of guys I want to come on the podcast, guys and girls I want to want to have on the podcast. And I was just looking at it and it was just like, nah, it's not happening. It is not happening. But I'm back. So update, I've moved house. I think that was also something I was waiting for. I've got a new office. It's really cool. It's just literally a white room with my desk and everything in it. But I've got some lights coming. I've got a new mouse pad, which is pretty cool. Mouse/keyboard pad. Anyway, this podcast, I'd like to talk about competing and maybe a few other things, wherever it kind of dives into. But I did put up a story box the other day. And one question I wanted to go over is, how do you know if you're ready to compete? Now, as you guys probably know, because you either follow me on Instagram, and if you don't know, then well, what are you doing here? I'm joking. What are you doing here, though? I've competed myself. I coach competitors. I coach, obviously, as an online coach, as my job. I coach people to be the best version of themselves, but also more competitors. So, a question I say to clients a lot, and it's always within the onboarding process, as if a client comes in or if someone comes in, and most coaches, all coaches will probably do this, is we set out a timeline. We set out realistic expectations. We don't allow you to fail. I think a lot of failure doesn't come from not doing something, but it's the unrealistic expectations that we give ourselves. For example, someone joins and says, I want to diet tomorrow. I want to lose 50 pounds in 12 weeks. It's not going to happen. Maybe it will happen, but it's probably not going to happen for the majority of the people, okay? So we need to set realistic expectations from the start. We need to look at where you're at in your life, where you're at within your lifting career, what is your training age, how good are you at training, what is your injuries like, financial status, relationship status, all this kind of stuff that we need to take into consideration if we're even thinking about competing. Now, before I go into that, I think if you're looking at competing or thinking about competing, it shouldn't be anytime soon. Unless you've been training for a long period of time and there's lots of people telling you, Jesus Christ, you need to step on stage, you look sick. If you have been training for 2-3 years, probably don't step on stage. I could be completely wrong. And if you feel like I'm wrong, send me a picture and I'll tell you. But it's something that is a very long process. And we need to understand that stepping on stage and being a bodybuilder and finishing that job title, stepping on stage, doing a comp prep, you should be doing that because you love the process and you love to train. You should not be stepping on stage you should not be training because you want to step on stage. You should be stepping on stage because you love to train. That will be wildly different in terms of the results, in terms of the enjoyment, in terms of everything. If you're going into the gym because you want to look a certain way, that's fine. If you're standing on stage and enduring all this pain and these health risks and everything, because you want to step on stage and you're doing that in the gym, you're going to the gym because of that, you're going to find that you are not going to bring the best look to stage. You are going to flag in the gym and your performance is going to take a big dip when you go into any kind of deficit. You need to enjoy the process. You need to obviously trust the process, enjoy the process more than anything, because if you are not enjoying that process, then those hard days, those hours of cardio, those thousands and thousands of steps, those minimal amounts of food, those days where you just are a zombie. There's no other way to describe it than you just are a zombie. You can't have conversations, you can't stand up, everything hurts, your feet hurt, sitting down hurts, sleeping hurts when you even get some sleep. They won't make sense, and you won't be able to get through those days unless you love training, unless you love what you're doing and you enjoy the process. Otherwise you're going to stand on stage and you're going to be a string bean, because everything's just going to disappear and you're going to keep going while everything disappears. Okay, we need to remember that stepping on stage and going through a diet and doing a comp prep, doing competition prep, is all about muscle retention. It's not, obviously we want to lose body fat, we want to lose as much body fat as possible, we want to get as lean as possible, but if you just focus on that, your performance is going to dip. Your performance is going to dip, your muscle's going to massively drop, your strength's going to drop, and you're going to look worse. Okay, it's a case of how much weight can we lose whilst also maintaining as much strength as possible, if not at the start of the prep, progressing, because that will very much happen. And I see it time and time again, and we are getting into that position now where coaches are becoming a bit more educated and people are much more aware about training performance and how we can utilize that stuff. But we shouldn't really be getting any weaker in a diet. If you're doing a normal diet, not getting legitimately lean, really lean, shredded, whatever you want to call it, there shouldn't really be a drop off in performance. Maybe towards the last couple of weeks, if you've been dieting for 12, 8, 9, 10 plus weeks, and you're on low food and you've lost a considerable amount of weight, you've lost a considerable amount of body fat. But we shouldn't really be seeing that. If you're dieting properly, if you are fueling yourself properly, if you're recovering properly, if you are adapting your training properly, you should just maintain strength, if not get stronger. You will maintain muscle, if not get a little bit bigger. I think it happens a lot more than we think, growing muscle in a deficit. I could be wrong, but from what I see with my clients, this is not a sales thing. From what I see with my clients, people get bigger and they get stronger. Natural, assisted, doesn't matter. If you're smart with things, it's going to happen. Anyway, what do we need to consider when do you know that you're ready to step on stage? So there's 3 or 4 things that we really need to consider first and foremost as a genre, as a section. Are you physically stable? Are you mentally stable? Are you financially stable? And I guess, do you have a good circle around you? Do you have good relationships? Okay, so let's break it down. Are you physically stable? Is there any pre-existing ongoing injuries, any issues that are stopping you from training, not allowing you to progress, things that you're having to really put time and effort into, prehab, rehab, work around within your training? They're only going to get worse as you diet down, because you're going to be doing more expenditure, you're going to be more fatigued, you're not going to be able to recover as well. They're going to get worse. Okay, so if you do have a rotator cuff injury, if you do have a knee injury, if you do have, a lower back injury, let's say it's a knee injury or something within the lower limbs. If you're going on and doing the Stairmaster for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 minutes, okay, that's a possibility, and you've got a bad knee, that's going to make it worse. I think it's pretty obvious to say that, right? Are you physically stable? Is there anything going on that will probably only get worse if you continue to diet down? If you diet down, obviously, I wouldn't say just diet down, because sometimes you might just need to diet down, you need to lose a little bit of weight, whatever, and that might help your injuries. But if you are getting considerably lean, getting lean, stage lean, legit lean, right? Peeled, shredded, aesthetic, bruh. You need to be physically stable, okay? I think, what did I say the next one? Mentally stable. Prep will take it out of you. Those of you that have prepped, those of you that have been around people that have prepped, those of you that know about prep, I feel like, no, people that know about prep but haven't done it or seen people don't really quite understand it until they're in it. But it takes a lot out of you. Fair play to anyone that isn't an online coach and just is a normal person that works a 9 to 5 and preps, is a labourer. I know guys that labour and carpenters and mechanics and all that kind of stuff. They do long days, hauling weight, steps, and prep as well. It is hard, right? I can think of both, for my situation from an outsider, watching Summer prep as well as vice versa, me prepping with Summer watching. There would be days where I think I can quite confidently say we probably went for about a state of about 3 or 4 days consistently where we had about 3 conversations. We'd wake up, it wouldn't even be like morning. It wouldn't be any of that. We'd just go on a walk. We'd go on a 25-minute walk like we always do. We'd get the steps done. We'd come back in. I'd be like, my legs are hurting. That'd probably be conversation 1. She'd then go to work and say, bye, I love you. I'd say, bye, I love you. That's conversation 2. She'd come back from work. I'd be on the sofa, led down. It would be, hi, how are you? That was conversation 3. And then conversation 4 was, night, love you. For about 4, 5, probably like a week, to be honest with you. And I'm aware of it. I know the impact it's having. She's aware of it. She knows the impact it's having. But both being in that position and being that depleted, being that tired, obviously I feel like you've got to be a little bit of a dick as well. I feel like your true colours do come out a lot of the time when you are dieting, but a lot of the time you just can't do it. Like, I know I'm supposed to have these conversations. I've had these conversations in my head, but it's just tiring actually doing it. Mentally, it's so taxing. You wake up in the morning, I think things really get intense about 8 weeks out. I think for most people it's like 6 weeks out. If you're feeling good, wow, fair play. Wow, like it's tough. I remember 8 weeks out for me, I was like, this is prep. This is prep. After 12 weeks of dieting, the first 12 weeks easy. 8 weeks out, it just hit me. Literally like on the dot of 8 weeks out, I was like, wow, okay. 6 weeks out, it was just torture. 4 weeks out, I'd considered stopping prep probably twice a day, every single day. You wake up in the morning, you're waking up at 5 o'clock because you've got to go up, you've got to do 55 minutes of cardio in my position. You've got to wake up, do cardio, do some steps, do stretching. So you do that, you wake up early, you do that, you have your coffee, blah, 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 blah. And you start that cardio and you think, I'm 5 minutes in. No, I'm 2 minutes in. I've got nothing to give here. There's no way I can finish this cardio. There's no way I can then go home, drive home, go home, have a tiny meal, do check-ins or do your job, whatever, then go and train, muster up the courage to train and the confidence to train, do that, do more cardio post-workout, finish off steps, do 12, 13, 14, 15, 16k steps, however many you've got, but you get it done. But there's just something, every single morning, it's like, I can't get up in the morning. Your legs feel like every day is a kilo heavier. Mentally, you need to be so resilient, so resilient. I think it's the one thing that people don't quite understand. Okay, and I'll hold my hands up, and the guys that probably listen to this are probably some of them, right? But I've had people last year that were first timers and going through this exact conversation, having calls with them. It's going to struggle. You might not be made for prep right now. And that's just the harsh truth. That's not me doubting. Well, I guess it is doubt, but it's more like concern. It's more care, right? It's like, just be aware of this. You have the conversations, they'll do it. And then, look, I had 3-4 clients start prep and not finish prep because it's just brutal. It is really tough, but it's one of the best things you're ever going to do, right? I still stand by my words of saying it was one of the greatest days of my life standing on stage, and that whole journey of 20 weeks of torture was the best torture ever. Would I do it again? Absolutely. If I could healthily, a bit healthier, I would do it. I still want to do it in a couple of years' time, but it's very mentally taxing. You have to be so mentally solid, and that also comes around having people around you that are well aware that you're going through, what you're going through. So physically stable, brain health, physical health, injuries, do you have any, blah, 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 blah. Mentally stable, you have to have a solid headspace. You need to be, like, it's just going to be nothing but mind games. You're going to look at yourself and go, I look absolutely shit. There's no way I can stand on stage. This guy looks better than me and he's doing my show. Or this guy's not doing my show, but he looks better than me and he's the same weeks out as me. It's an absolute it's just a minefield out there. You're comparing yourself to other people. You're asking your coach if you're going to be ready or not. You're asking yourself if you're going to be ready or not. You want to eat loads of food. You can't have a conversation. You can't do anything. Training's awful. It is very rough. You need to be so stable mentally. More than anything, I think if you've got a few physical injuries and you're mentally stable enough, you can crack on and get on with it. I did. I had a few injuries. Probably shouldn't have prepped, but I did. Financially stable. This is a big one as well. People it's like a thing that people don't really think of. Depending on how many shows you're doing, depending on, are you assisted, are you natural, do you have a coach, are you going to get a coach, how expensive is that coach, how long do you want the season to be, how health and kind of risk averted are you. You have to pay, regardless of whether you do 1 show or 10 shows. For a federation, you have to pay for a membership for the year, okay, which is, let's say, roughly £60 to £80, £60 to £90, I think one of them's like £90, but £60, right? So let's just say £70. You pay £70 for a membership fee. Okay, you pay for that show day. You have to pay for the fee, pay for the show day. You then have to pay for the tan. You can do it yourself, but depending on which federation you're doing, you're probably going to want to pay for them to do it, just for a look that the judges are going to prefer in terms of tan and glazing. Pay for the tan. If you're female, you pay for the bikini, you pay for all the jewelry, you pay for your lashes, you pay for your hair, you pay for your heels. Like, the fair play to the females, right? Fair play to you ladies, because the bikini is like £250 plus. Some bikinis are like £450. It's mental. Us guys, yeah, I just spend 40-50 quid for some pink trunks. Like, it's cool, it's fine, it's not much, but you pay for that. So membership, show day, tan, which you're looking at, depending on what you're doing, how many times you're doing it, you're looking at, let's say per tan, you're looking at about £70, £80 again. So we've got 7, 14, 21, 210 quid already. That's just for the day. Accommodation, you're probably going to want accommodation unless you live really close, within 30-45 minutes. You're probably going to want accommodation, so you're not going to get your tan there and then driving back to your house and then going back again, and then you barely got any time. So probably accommodation. You've got to pay for your coach. A good coach these days, most good coaches, there's obviously anomalies, but you're looking at anywhere between 175 to 300 quid for a good coach. Some coaches are 350, 400 pounds. I'm sure there is some coaches that maybe 150 that are pretty good. But you're looking at about that per month. Your food, your supplements, are you assisted? If you take into consideration like assistants and anabolics and ancillaries and prophylactic drugs and all that kind of stuff, if you're taking growth hormone, if you're taking Anavar, if you're taking Winstrol, if you're taking Primo, if you're taking all that kind of stuff, right, you can add another 300, 400, 500 pound on top of that per month. Blood work, which should be done 150, 200, 250, 300 pounds every 2-3 months, depending on how much you care about your health. It's expensive. It is expensive. I think if you're female, you need to make sure you are willing to spend, let's say, including coaching rates as well, paying for a monthly coach, and assisted. Let's say worst case scenario, you're probably spending $3,000 as a male. Even more drugs, but less on the bikini side, less on the trunks and all that kind of stuff. You're probably still looking at about $3,000. It's expensive. It could be worse as well. You've then got to look at how expensive is it paying for health supplementation, paying for all that kind of stuff, paying for the photography as well, all this kind of stuff. It's expensive. And then finally, the people around you. Do you have a good network? Do you have people around you that understand what you're going through? The amount of people that will divorce, go through mishaps within their relationship, break up with other halves, boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever. The amount of people that go through that, lose their jobs because they just give everything to this thing of stepping on stage for 5 minutes, and then they've got no energy, and they've lost sales and they've lost everything. They lose their jobs, they lose clients. The amount of coaches that the service will slip. Okay, you need a good service around you, a good network around you. You need people that know what you're going through, how you're going to feel, right? In terms of like other halves, partners, whatever you want to call them, boyfriends, girlfriends. They need to be well aware, whether you are male or female, that when you diet down, there's just not going to be any hanky-panky. It's just not going to happen, really. There's going to be a point in time where if you, as a male, are dieting down, he's just not going to go up. You're just not going to get an erection. It's going to be hard to get one. You might get one every now and then. It's probably not going to happen. Let's say from let's say from about 4 weeks out, it's not going to happen. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks. From about 10 weeks out, the libido is going to be pretty low, depending on what drugs you're using. If you're looking at naturally, the libido is going to be low. You've then got to look at the effects after that. Okay, yes, your partner may be aware that for 12 weeks you might not be having any sex. There might not be anything going on there. But equally, how long is it going to take you to get that function back? Naturally, it could be, let's say best case scenario, 2-3 weeks. It could be 8 months. It could be 9 months, 10 months. Sometimes it takes time. Everyone's going to be different. Everyone is going to repair differently, right? Female, you're going to lose function of your period. The cycle dysfunction is going to be very apparent. Now, for some people, that might come back in 3-4 weeks. I think Summer, when I coached Summer through her prep, she missed out on 2 periods. One was 3 weeks out, and then she then had her period. She missed one. She then had a period 4 weeks post-show. That's a great, we were buzzing with that. That's an amazing situation. Some people, some females will have their cycle. They will bleed. They will go through ovulation. Most females are probably going to miss out on 3, 4, 5 cycles. That has big impacts. And, you know, there's going to be no libido, there's going to be no want for sex, no desire for sex, no desire to do anything. You need to have people around you. If you are in a relationship, they need to be well aware of how long and potentially what's, you know, worst case scenario. Family members. For me, I had 2 birthday parties, 2 events, 2 meals I had to go to. Well, one of them I didn't eat at all. The other one I took oats and whey while they were having steak and pizza and calzone. That was because I wanted to do it. They didn't like it. You know, I'm sure they probably wanted to slap me and say, what the hell are you doing? But for me, it was like, no, if I wanted to eat that meal, I would, but I don't want to. This goal here is big for me, but it impacts them as well. You have to be very, very selfish, so selfish to go through that, be in that position of, cool, I don't really care about your happiness right now. I'm here. That's all that really matters. I can still be me. I can still be present, maybe a bit subpar and suboptimal in terms of presence, but you're still there. But you're either not eating, watching them eat, and that then has its effects in terms of how you're viewing people eat nice foods. You're not really fully present with things. You're not able to enjoy everything. It's massive. Stepping on stage is very hard, but it's very rewarding. I would do it again. I would love to do it again. That's why people go year after year after year, because it's great. People love it. It's the outcome. It's the hard work. You reap the rewards of your efforts. But there's so much more in the finer details that people are just so unaware of. You need to be physically stable, mentally stable, financially stable, and you need to have good network and, you know, a good circle, a close circle. They're not going to gaslight you. They're not going to say things that might upset you too much where you just cool it. You know, for example, you go and see your nan, you know, you go and see your grandma and she says, oh, you look a bit skinny. People can just freak at that. We know what they mean. I know what they mean. But for someone that's maybe new to it or maybe a bit more sensitive, you lose it. My grand said I look skinny. What's the point of stepping on stage? Little things like that. You know, people are going to see you. People are going to look at you weird. You're going to look like a 10-year addict of meth. It's just how you're going to look. There's going to be no skin. There's going to be no body fat on you. It's going to play a toll. But it will be, if you want to and you are in it for the right reasons, one of the greatest things you can do if you can accomplish it and get out of it the other end, and you have a strong exit strategy post-show. You are well aware of what's going to happen post-show. This is probably another podcast, really, where the hardest part of prepping is coming out of that prep. The hardest part of dieting is post-diet, when you eat more food. It's not just a case of you eat more food and everything's fine. You eat more food and you feel worse at sometimes. You want to eat everything. It's this insatiable, unfillable hole of hunger where your hunger hormones are all over the place. But we'll save that for another time. Maybe I'll get someone experienced that can talk through that and kind of how it feels. And that, even then, that's person dependent. That is person dependent. I'm so happy in the fact that stepping on stage meant so much to me, where it was the first time ever that I didn't binge and didn't overeat. But I know people that will step off the stage and that's it, they're done. They're never going to go back to bodybuilding again. They're going to do high rocks. They go and do CrossFit. They'll stay away from it and stay clear from it because they are so mentally disrupted, physically disrupted. Their hormones are destroyed. They've got a coach that's maybe pushed them too hard. You do need to be pushed, but maybe pushed too hard in terms of drugs more than they needed to because it's the first time. Like, I know people, you're probably watching this now, that first timer juniors have been doing 2 grams plus of gear. Like, it's just absurd. There's just no need for it. You need to be in the right mindset. You need to have the right coach behind you as well. The right coach for you might be the coach that wants to give you all the drugs in the world. Maybe that's what you want. You go and you find that out yourself. You jump on a call, you follow them, you have conversations with them and find out what they're about and whether that aligns with you. That's it. Are you ready to compete? Let me know. Reply. Message me on Instagram, whatever. And if you have any more questions, please also message me. There's so much that's just not spoken about. As consumers of social media, as consumers as a whole, we are shown what we want to see. You've lost 40 pounds and you got shredded and you won your show and you got a supplement sponsorship and you gained 10 clients along the way and you're living the dream and now you look really good and now you've grown really nicely post-show. They're going to show you that because it gives them money, it gives them confidence, it makes them feel good. But what they're not showing you is the other things. That's what I'm here for. I've always been honest, and people, I know I don't have a huge following, but the people that do follow me for my honesty, because I'm going to tell you how it is. It's great, but equally it's not so great. You need to just be prepared for it. But yeah, I feel like I'm going to leave it there. 25 minutes. First podcast back. we built the momentum. I want you guys to when I put on the stories, or even if you're just watching this now and you want some things answered, you want honest, truthful feedback, whatever responses, ask me some questions. When I put them on Instagram, or if I do Instagram stories, post, whatever, or just if you see me and you whatever it may be, ask questions. I am someone, when the content that I consume is not very bodybuilding related. I'm so bored of watching bodybuilding content. I stopped that like 2-3 years ago. I watched the Real Bodybuilding podcast. That's about it, and that's, as we all know, if you do watch that and listen to that, it's not really, there's bodybuilding for about 20 minutes and the rest of it is just guys talking. That's the kind of stuff I want. Like that's what I watch, and I want to also put that out there as well. So if you've got any would you rather, some absolutely awful dark humour would you rathers, whatever, if you've got some genuine questions that you want me to help with, or maybe you want some guidance with, or any questions at all, recovery, sleep, I guess that is recovery, training, diet, prep, things to look out for, blood work, blah 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 blah. If you want them and you want this podcast to continue, ask me some questions. But if you have made it this far, 26 minutes in, thank you very much. Whether you are male, female, unicorn, whatever it may be, I appreciate you being here. As always, like this, share this. A share would go a long way, to be fair. Subscribe if this is on YouTube. Leave a review or rating, whatever it is, on Apple or Spotify, whatever. I'm too old for this shit. You know what to do. If you're here, thank you. I appreciate you. If you're not going to be listening to this. Why did I say that? Anyway, have a wonderful day, whatever you're doing. I'll be thinking of you. I will be. You can decide how I'm thinking of you, but I will be thinking of you. Peace.